다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps Let's see that you are 배불러
Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Wednesday. It is hump day. I'm so glad you decided to spend part of your Wednesday with me here. And we are not going to disappoint. We have a fantastic show planned for you today. I'm going to be on my game. I even brought some reading glasses. Finally, they've got me. And I've taken so much joy in not needing reading glasses. And yesterday, I'm sitting here and I was struggling to read my laptop. And so I said, F it, I got to bring my reading glasses in. It's like I can read the teleprompter and everything on camera. Great. I can see everything far away from me. Awesome. Anyway, enough of my problems, but that's where the glasses are coming from. Wow. Am I excited about today's show? Delano Squires is going to join us. We're going to set it off. That's good. You ever see the movie Set It Off? It's about a bunch of feminist gangbangers. I think Queen Latifah was in it. Anyway, that's what we're going to do today. These women continue to set it off about Serena Williams and what's black culture and who's not like us and is she trolling Drake or, what was she doing? Serena's put out an explanation. We're going to go into it. As yesterday we talked some about Serena's husband attacking me, and Serena is under a bit of attack. She only likes to be praised like most people. That's anybody. They like to be praised. They don't like to be criticized and examined. Well, there's been a little bit of an examination of Serena Williams, and she's not handling it well, but we're going to continue the discussion because I think it's important. We have to answer the question, like, what is black culture? Because I sat and listened to Sonny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg and a conversation they had on The View yesterday, and it was maddening in this whole defense of Serena Williams. So we'll start there with Delano. And we're going to have to make, you Steve Kim fans, and I know there's a lot of you, and I know that's why you watch the show for Steve Kim, the Korean Cosell. You're going to have to be patient today. It may be an hour and 15 minutes before we get to Steve Kim and talk some more of this sports stuff because Delano's going to join me. I'm going to talk, and then I'm going to bring Shemeka Michelle into this conversation we have about culture and what's going on with Serena Williams and all the different tentacles and branches that have come off that Super Bowl halftime. I'm not quite done with the topic because America's not quite done with the topic. And so we'll get into that. And then at some point, we'll transition into your favorite part of the show, Steve Kim, and we'll talk about, with Steve Kim, we'll talk about a little bit about Serena Williams. We'll let him chime in. But Aaron Rodgers, it sounds like the New York Jets have given him an ultimatum. Leave the Pat McAfee show and all that other stuff alone if you want to return to the New York Jets. John Rocker and Pat Mahomes Sr., did they get in some sort of dust-up in New Orleans? We'll play the video. Me and Steve will discuss it. Is this some sort of work where they're trying to hype up an old man grudge match where both of these guys can get paid? I reached out to John Rocker, haven't heard back from him, offered him the opportunity to come on and clarify. If you haven't seen the video, we'll show it to you later. Fox Sports came out with a ridiculous top 10 quarterbacks list Steve Kim and I will discuss. And then last night, and I'm looking forward to this conversation, Kevin Durant became the 8th NBA player to score 30,000 points. And it made me and the team go, well, hold on, where does Kevin Durant rank? Is he at the cusp of top 10 all time? Or is he at the cusp and maybe on the outside looking in of the top 20 all time? Steve Kim and I will discuss that. You got to hear all these different names. It sounds crazy. What do you mean Kevin Durant's not one of the top 20 players of all time? Wait till you hear all these names and players, and then you decide. I think he's in, but I don't think he's super comfortably in. But we'll discuss that. So that's today's show. We may also, depending on how things go with Steve Kim and how you guys are enjoying Steve Kim, I may add the little video of Mark Cuban telling Dallas Maverick fans to sit the F down, and just me and Steve may just talk about the fall of Mark Cuban. This guy went from super popular NBA owner to groupie for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to guy that's not owning the Mavericks, but still one of the faces being blamed for the Luka Doncic trade. So fantastic, action-packed show for you today. I want to start, just so I can free up a little room. Delano, give me 90 more seconds. I just want to free up a little room for our conversation about Serena Williams by talking to you guys about those of you that need debt solutions. And listen, I'm a person that just does not believe in debt. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this to those of you, particularly in our audience, that want to live a life filled with a biblical worldview and being able to act on that biblical worldview. You got to eliminate your debt. That's the only way. Whoever you owe money to, that's your master. And so Purity Debt Solutions, they can walk you through the process of eliminating your debt. This, guys, if you're struggling, or gals, if you're struggling with debt, don't go anywhere yet. I haven't said that. Don't go anywhere yet. If you're struggling with debt, I got a solution for you. Purity Debt Solutions. If you're feeling buried underneath your credit card bills, personal loans, or medical debt, it's like your money's working harder for your lenders, and it is, than it is for you. It doesn't have to be that way. Purity Debt Solutions, PDS Debt, does more than just help you manage your debt. They empower you to take control, to eventually eliminate it. Using their platform, they go beyond the numbers to understand your unique financial situation and craft a personalized plan designed just for you. No more cookie cutter solutions, just a clear path to financial freedom that fits your lifestyle and your biblical worldview. And here's the best part. There's no minimum credit score required. Whether your credit is bad or fair, they're here to help you save more, pay off your debt faster, and start putting money back where it belongs, in your savings account. Get debt free. It's one of the greatest freedoms any man can enjoy. And if you want to be a real man, you got to get your debt under control. Get started with your free debt analysis in just 30 seconds at pdsdebt.com/fearless. That's pdsdebt.com/fearless. Take control of your life. Get out of debt. You hear Dave Ramsey talk about it all the time. I'm telling you, it's the ultimate freedom to be debt-free. You can do it. pdsdebt.com/fearless. Delano, welcome back to the show. Man, I got a conversation for us that I'm sure you've been paying attention to, because you pay attention to the culture very closely. And so, Delano, I just want to start you off with a 2-minute clip from The View, I believe yesterday. Sonny Holston and Whoopi Goldberg, they're talking about Serena Williams and the halftime show, and Serena Williams crip walking, and what was she doing out there? Was she trolling Drake, or was this just some homage to Compton? And blah, blah, blah. Let's play that clip, and then we'll start our conversation.
Serena crip walking was really about what happened to her when she did the same crip walk after she beat Sharapova in the 2012 Olympics. She did that crip walk then, and it was on Wimbledon grass, and everyone said that it was disrespectful. So for Serena, because she was dancing. So she was doing a crip walk.
Disrespectful to who? The grass?
It was disrespectful. They actually, she took a lot of criticism for doing that.
Really?
And so when you look at Serena's comments, what she was doing was being her authentic self, an homage to her roots from Compton, and it was Black joy and Black excellence. You've got the greatest female athlete of all time coming out and enjoying herself. Yeah, it wasn't about Drake at all.
I don't understand. Well, why would you even think it was? Why would you think
the song
she's
is
not
about
smart?
Drake, though.
Yeah, but that wasn't about him.
That was not about Drake. That was about... She got a chance to do something she wanted to do, and she went and did it. And instead of saying, damn, that was kind of great, you bringing it back to some old stuff that she is...
She's happily married.
She's happily married. Why are you... What?
My honest 2 cents, and I absolutely love her. I think she's an inspiration to so many women, was I was like, oh, okay, she's been married since, like, my husband and I got together. Why would she care to, you know, get in on this, like, dissing Drake thing? But then I dug deeper. Drake's been coming at her in songs and her marriage for years. Like, he's taken digs at her husband, the founder of Reddit.
She doesn't care.
But my point being, it's not, I don't even know that it counts as petty when somebody's been deeply petty to you and you're just clapping back.
Yeah. You just said take the high road in the last segment.
Oh, I know, but then I got...
Not when you're Serena
Yeah, exactly. But again, this was not about Drake. Serena posted on X, I did not crip walk like that at Wimbledon. I would have been fined. This was about Serena being her authentic self and being the essence of Black culture.
But why would...
There was a lot of interesting things said there, but the last deal, this is Serena being her authentic self. This is about Black excellence and Black culture. Crip walking. And so it what is Black culture? How has the mainstream legacy media defined Black culture? How do the average ordinary, and let's be real about it, what does the average ordinary Black American think is Black culture? Have we all decided that gang culture, hip hop culture is Black culture? Is there a consensus? Maybe you and I are outside of that, but maybe everyone else or most people disagree with us.
Well, Jason, I wanted to say something really quick on a factual point, right? Because I've heard this thing, you know, Serena's from Compton. She grew up in this area, and I get it. If you grew up in if you grow up in certain areas, there's a culture surrounding you that even if you don't actively participate in it, it's just there. I looked on her Wikipedia page. Serena Williams was born in Saginaw, Michigan, moved to Compton when she was young, let's call it 3 years old, and left Compton for Florida because her parents saw she had potential in tennis when she was 9 years old. She didn't even go, and she was homeschooled, apparently, by her dad. So she wasn't outside, as the kids say. She didn't even go to middle school, let alone high school. She wasn't out there with the 8 trays and the rolling 60s, and they say, oh, that's just little Serena from the block. So this whole thing where this is just part of what Serena grew up with, I find it hard to believe, knowing that she spent her formative years in Florida. So she should be doing more of the Gator Chomp than the Crip Walk. But to your question about what is Black culture, I think it depends on who you ask and in what context you ask it. I'll say it this way. When a Black artist is winning awards, let's say Beyonce winning a Grammy for her, country album, or a Black athlete is winning an award or a Super Bowl, or whatever the case may be, then I think Black folk are like, yes, this is for the culture. This is a win for the culture. But when a hip hop artist is being criticized for the content that they put out there, for the guns, the murder, the ops, the drugs, the degradation and disrespect for women, then that same person will say, "Oh no, you can't. That's not Black culture. That's hip hop. That's that particular individual." Because I think for many people, culture, and this is not unique to Black folk, culture is used synonymously with norms, values, beliefs, behaviors that we approve of and we celebrate. But when it comes to things that are negative or unproductive or degenerate or destructive, that are accepted in the community, are celebrated, glorified, and commodified, then when those things are put under the microscope in a broader culture, then it's like, no, we don't accept that. We accept Snoop when he's doing something positive, when he's, coaching his Pee Wee football team. But when he's promoting pimping and porn and all sorts of degeneracy, then that's not a reflection of Black culture. You can't say that. And I think that dichotomy lives in almost all of us, and certainly in the people who are talking heads and have the platforms on TV and mainstream media.
It's interesting, like, who is, as it relates to The View, and they only have so many options, but like, who's jumping to defense of Serena Williams and putting a positive spin on? I would imagine, I don't know Sonny Houston or Hoston's background. It's probably similar to Serena's in terms of probably a disconnect from the hood culture that she's trying to attach herself to now. I believe Sonny Hoston is half black, half white. Say that with no disrespect. And then
half Puerto Rican.
Whoopi Goldberg.
She's Puerto Rican.
Half Puerto Rican.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Half Puerto Rican and half white, or half black and half Puerto Rican?
No, I think she would identify as Afro-Latina, of someone of Puerto Rican descent. Now, she's definitely got European ancestry somewhere up in there, but I think she identifies as black and Puerto Rican.
And then you have, and we could have played a clip where Whoopi Goldberg starts out the defense of Serena Williams, but this is a black woman who has intentionally taken on a Jewish identity to advance her career. So despite what you may have seen in The Color Purple, Whoopi Goldberg has made it real clear what culture she wants to be associated with while being on TV pretending like, I'm here, I'm Mrs. Malcolm X, I'm Betty Shabazz. Not true. Ask Ted Danson. She's not Betty Shabazz. She may be Becky, but she ain't Betty. and so I was sitting there stunned. National TV show that represents the point of view of women, and everybody seemed to be in agreement like, hey, Crip walking and gang culture, no one wants to deal with the negative part of that. This is a celebration, an homage to where she grew up, and it's the excellence of black culture. Crip walking? And I'm just, can they honestly believe this? Or is this just what they have to say to survive on television?
Well, I think for them, they probably disconnect, the dance from the gang. And for a lot of times when you hear it in popular culture, they're called sea walking. So there's been a move to sort of, disconnect it from its roots. And as I said, I'm sure
they said Crip though. They said Crip on the show.
They did say Crip, right?
Yeah.
Right. They did say Crip, but I don't think that they are actively envisioning, okay, this is a dance associated with a violent street gang. But I'll say this, and more than Serena, because I think I take it differently when Serena does it. She's a woman. She's never been in a gang, right? She doesn't promote violence or the gang lifestyle. She's just doing a little dance in the same way you could see, a white kid from the suburbs doing a dance. What struck me is the fact that Snoop Dogg, who is by far the most visible and famous Crip in the world, someone who does say, yes, I'm a Crip. Even to this day, he'd probably say he's a Crip. And certainly, in the early part of his career, that was a big part of his identity. Not only popularized the dance and the culture, but Snoop is making anti-hate videos with Tom Brady. And I'm saying to myself, now, if he had got the game and you have a blood and a Crip making a video saying, I hate you because you wear the wrong colors. I hate you because you want to take over my hood. I hate you because my dad hated your dad. I hate you because we fight in prison. And then they say, let's stop the hate. We're all in the same gang. Bloods and Crips unite. And it was paid for by the NAACP. I just said, okay, that's culturally productive. But when a guy who has made a legacy on associating himself with a violent street gang and has had the types of criminal charges that go with that, decides to use his platform to speak against hate, right? And I think this wasn't just hate in general. This was specifically about anti-Semitism. So he teams up with Tom Brady, the golden boy, to preach against hate and specifically anti-Semitism. I said, this is one of our problems. This is one of the problems in the culture, right? Race hate is not seen as a self-hate is not seen as a problem. Self-hate in the form of violence against one another in our own communities is not seen as a problem. it's always something external that now we got to speak against. And that to me struck me more than the Serena thing, because Snoop actually has been associated with the gang and the violence that they inflict on their communities.
I love that point, because the chances of Snoop or any Crip doing violence against Jews or any white person
Extremely low.
Far more minuscule compared to what Snoop and the Crips will do to other black people. And so let's get on TV and say, hey, make sure as a Crip and as a black person, don't you do nothing to them Jews and don't you do nothing to white folks. Now, what we do amongst ourselves to settle our differences, that's a whole different topic. We ain't got to address that. We don't need any messaging around that. But it does, what you just brought up does connect to the overall, like, delusion or the universe or the world, the matrix that black celebrities and influencers live in that is completely disconnected from the overall reality. And so these guys, Sonny Houston, Whoopi Goldberg, Snoop, they get to get on TV and tell everybody, hey, here's the agenda, here's what black culture is, here's what we should be concerned about. And it's just completely disconnected from reality. And my concern is that many people who are vulnerable to the violence and all that other stuff, they actually have gone off into this fantasy world with the celebrities. And it's why they vote the way they vote, and it's why they don't stand up and say, hey man, the things going on in our community that make my grandmama unsafe, make it hard for my children to focus on what they should be focusing on in school, this needs to stop and be addressed. And instead, we're in this little fake world. Even the people in these vulnerable communities where they're dealing with this on a day-to-day, their whole mindset is on this alleged problem they have with Christian evangelicals, particularly if they're white. And you know, I sit here, and if I had to define what, and I hate to say it, I don't want to sound angry or whatever, but it's like our culture, if someone was really honest, it's a culture of delusion. It's a culture of fantasy and that everything, it's like the gangster rappers, many of them are a fantasy that they didn't really live that lifestyle. Snoop's been married for damn near 30 years or something like that. And you know, all the things they prescribe for everybody else has nothing to do with the way they live their life. And so I'm going to ask again, if you were a Harvard professor, Ivy League professor, and they said, hey, write up a dissertation, do a thesis on what black culture, not what you want it to be, but what it is for the overwhelming majority of black people, how would you write that thesis? This is the perfect question for you, Delano. We call you the professor for a reason, and you write. So what would that thesis be?
So I would first start with a baseline definition, right? So in terms of when I say black culture, when I think black, I'm thinking, you know, people will say, you know, foundational black Americans, American descendants of slavery, but yes, but black Americans, multi-generational, whose families have been here, you know, since the country's founding. Starting there, that definition. So that mix of people from all different tribes in Africa melded into a new ethnic group of, you know, of African descent, but in this country, carried forth through, you know, centuries. So that's the root. So other groups, black immigrants from the Caribbean or Africa, you know, may be grafted into that, right? But in terms of the root, that's where it is. when I think about what Black culture is today, I think there are certainly both positive elements that are worth celebrating. And then I think there is a large part of double-mindedness and sort of double consciousness and internal contradictions. So we hear Black Lives Matter, but not in front of the abortion clinic. We say we want people to value our lives, but we don't do it in our own neighborhoods. So there's some internal conflict there. But when I think about Black culture, I think about the norms, the values, the behaviors, the touch points, the music, the food. Some of this has regional variation. So what Black culture looks like in Harlem is going to be different than what it looks like in Indianapolis, which is going to be different than what it looks like in Atlanta, which is going to be different than what it looks like in rural Mississippi, which is different than what it looks like in New Orleans, which is different than what it looks like in Compton. But the center of that is wide enough and strong enough where you could have specific people, and whether we like them or not, Snoop will be one of those people, Beyonce will be one of those people who can go to any of those places and feel welcomed and accepted. It's the swaying and the cadence in the Black church. It's the street vendors who sell oil and sell books in whatever city that you're from. It's a mix of things, and in many respects, it has to be felt. It's not one specific thing. But for me, when I think about culture, it's not just the things that I want to celebrate and I think are positive. It's also the things that have been accepted that, to me, need to be pruned and that threaten the growth of the overall culture. So we've talked about the Sexy Reds and the Sukihanas, or we were talking about Snoop, or we were talking about the violence that we see in our communities. Or other people have talked about the notion that if you're Black and you excel academically, that you're acting white. These are all, we've talked about breakdown in the family. These are all elements that I would say, sort of go into characterizing Black culture, not necessarily defining it. But at the end of the day, if you were to pin me down, I would define Black culture the way I would define culture generally, which is the set of accepted behaviors, norms, values that resonate with the mass of Black people in this country that have been, over the course of generations, that have been given light and water and have grown to the point where they're accepted as normal wherever any critical mass of Black people gather. That was sort of a long way of getting there. I will say this, and I think this is an important caveat. What Black culture is today, I certainly would say is not what it has been in decades past. And there has been a clear break in my mind. And I think I may disagree with some, even Black conservatives here, and with a lot of Black folk in general, in terms of when that break happened. I think many people think that break happened in the civil rights movement. And I would say, no, that break happened in the 70s, where the more revolutionary posture was taken on as the cultural norm. So I put that on the Black Panther age, not the civil rights marcher age, where the height of Blackness is sticking it to the man, where everything is about the revolution and the fist in the air. And I get why you would think that way and feel that way in the 1970s. But if you define your culture based on its antagonism toward the people who you feel are your oppressors or your people who marginalize you, then anything that they're for, you're naturally against. So when they say we're for the nuclear family, well, we're against that. When they say we're for the cause of life, well, we're against that. When they say we're for, safe, orderly communities, well, we're against that. And I think that's one of the main reasons we've seen such a divergence away from what Black culture was in decades past, as opposed to what it is right now.
I think, and I'm going to play you this clip, Delano, and then I'm going to let you go and get on with the rest of your day. But I think I wasn't thinking of saying this when this conversation started or this morning, but if I had to crystallize what I think black culture is at this moment, it is victimhood. That if I had to choose one word to define black culture, it's victimhood. And so if you wake up every day thinking you're a victim, you're going to turn yourself into a victim, come hell or high water. You're going to make a bunch of bad choices to make sure you're a victim because that's your identity. I must be oppressed. I must be a victim. And this conversation that about black culture and how it's being defined in general, we have to have it, and we have to have it transparently and authentically. I think one of the reason I'm so steadfast and just strident in my opinion, there's a 20-year age gap between you and I, and you're right in terms of you have no experience with what I experienced the first 25, 30 years of my life. I'm born in 1967. Dr. King is killed in 1968. RFK, I think, is killed in 1968. But even with those deaths, there was so much optimism with my generation and what we were about to do and what the previous generation had created the opportunity for us to have. And so we were so optimistic and thought, man, I can do anything. And so there was, I said this yesterday, there was no mentality of like, unless I see some black person do it first, I can't do it. I grew up thinking like, oh, I'm looking at Mike Royko at the Chicago Tribune and the Chicago Daily News and looking at him having, and I'm like, oh man, I can do that. And it didn't matter what color he was. It was like, oh, he's success. That's everything I was getting pushed. But my brother yesterday sent me a note about my third grade teacher, Miss Florida Harding, at school number 83 in Indianapolis, Indiana, and how she has followed me ever since, Ball State and all this other stuff, and he just ran into her, blah, blah, blah. And I just think about Miss Harding and what she was put. It was an all-black school, school number 83, and what she was telling us in third grade, and what school 83, and it's like the world is out there, go conquer it. And that is gone. The Masterpiece Lounge experience I had with all these working class factory black people and all, that's all gone. And no one, my father and his friends and all the people, no one thought of themselves as victims. They thought of themselves as, the kings of their, and we just don't have that anymore. And whether we want to have the conversation or not, the conversation's being had. Did you see what Dennis Prager and Patrick Bet-David were talking about yesterday? I retweeted it out. I'll play you the clip right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll play the clip right now, and then we'll get your response. But this is Dennis Prager, PragerU, a Jewish guy, talking about why Jews have been successful where blacks have not. Let's play the clip.
Why, after such a dramatic event that happened to Jews, okay, with the intentions of wanting to eliminate every single Jew on the face of the planet, right? This is what Hitler's vision was, right? Why is it years later, after a crisis like that, what values and principles helped Jews pretty much own Hollywood, do well in business, do well in life?
Oh, I'll tell you, I have the answer
go
for
for
you.
it. Yeah.
They didn't see themselves as victims. It is the most paralyzing thing in black life, what the left is doing to blacks. The left hates you blacks. No, they don't hate you. They have contempt for you. Telling you you're a victim is paralyzing. Jews did not walk around thinking they're victims even after the Holocaust.
Why not?
Because they knew it is completely self-destructive.
How did they know?
I don't know. It's a great... well, maybe because of the Jewish tradition has always been, we take responsibility for our own suffering.
So why wouldn't the media try to target the Jews to make them feel victims? How come they didn't succeed with Jews?
The media doesn't have contempt for Jews. It has contempt for blacks.
Why not, though? Why not?
Because the left has contempt for blacks. because they use them. They don't use Jews.
Why? Why can't they use Jews? If they can use any sect, they would do it. So why can't they use Jews?
Well, Jews are disproportionately on the left. I mean, there's no way around it. So in effect, there's no need to keep.
They already have them, in a sense.
Yeah, in a sense, yes.
I got you.
So whether I agree or disagree with what Dennis Prager is saying, because some of it I disagree with just strongly, like, well, how come the media can't do that to Jews? Well, Jews have a lot of influence in the media. And, Jewish people have a lot of power globally, and that's a difference. And Jews have used the victim narrative to consolidate power. And so, there's some of it I clearly disagree with or would, tweak and say, hold on, man, push back on. But these conversations are being had more and more publicly, and where I think Dennis Prager is absolutely right is like, hey, black people, y'all think of yourselves as victims. There's no win there. You can't win there. And I think if that's our culture and that's how we're seen, people are going to take a lot less sympathetic view of us and just say, hey, man, these guys see themselves as victims. And if you see yourself as a victim, you're going to become one. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I mean, this is biblical. I think it's in the book of Numbers where, Moses sends out the spies, 12 spies, and then 10 of them come back with a bad report. And 2 of them say, no, we can take this land. But the others say, we saw these huge guys over in that land, and we saw ourselves as grasshoppers, as small, and basically so did they. So I do think a lot of it has to do with sort of sense of self-perception. Like you, I would disagree slightly with what Dennis Prager was saying, and I'm assuming that's an old clip because I know he had a pretty bad accident recently, and I'm not even sure if he's back on his feet. But I'll say this. There is a parallel there between sort of Jewish self-perception and black self-perception, right? So the NAACP and the ADL, in some respects, do serve the same function. Any sort of whiff, anything that smells like racism or anti-Semitism, no. This is, so for the NAACP, it's a white person saying blacks commit a disproportionate number of violent crimes, saying that publicly. That'll get you smacked on the wrist. For the ADL, it's saying Jews control a disproportionate number of media entities and, Hollywood production companies. That'll get you smacked on the wrist. I think the difference is not that there is not a sense of victimhood. The question is how someone processes the external challenges that they face. And I think some groups use it as an engine to say, oh, they want to keep us down. They want to keep us out. We're going to go further and harder and higher. And then for some groups, it becomes an anchor where it just weighs you down. And instead of it pushing you forward, you don't even move. Well, how am I going to do this? Such and such won't let me. They won't let us. I'm sure you've heard this, for much of your life, certainly the latter part, and certainly for at least half of my life. Oh, they won't let us do such and such. And as I said, and to your point, Jason, I think that's a relatively new phenomenon within sort of black culture. But it's definitely there. And I agree with you. I do think a big part of what black culture has become and what the sort of popular perception of black culture is a culture of victimhood. Everybody in the society treats us as if we are wards and children that need to be managed instead of men and women who need to be dealt with on the same plane. I will say this is not a race-specific thing. Any group of people can fall victim to, for lack of a term, to seeing themselves as victims of society, of external forces. But I think given the history of Black Americans in this country, you could understand why some people would take on that mentality. But the irony is, as Black folk have gotten more power, more economic power, more representation in the government, more representation in media, all the things that people say are important, higher incomes, lower poverty rates, the family has fallen apart, and the culture has become more and more degraded. NWA did not rise after the Civil War, and they're saying, F the KKK, the white man has got his boot on my neck and I'm sticking it to him. That happened in 1989. So it's not economics. I do think a large part of it is how you see yourself. And as long as we see ourselves as grasshoppers, then that's how everybody else is going to see us, and that's how they're going to treat us. And I'm a person, I do not like paternalism or condescension. I don't like it in any way, shape, or form. I don't like it when it comes from the left. I don't like it when it comes from the right. Doesn't matter who's doing it, I don't like it. And I do think a big part of our problem today is that we allow that sort of victim mindset to settle in, and it paralyzes us instead of motivating us to move forward.
Delano, thank you for the time. Enjoy the rest
Jason.
of your Wednesday. Great job as always. That's Delano Squires. Shemeka Michelle is going to join us in a bit. I'm going to expound on some of my additional thoughts. I want to add to that position of like, hey, black culture is victimhood, but it's also single-parent family. That's another part of our culture. The data says that. The attitude says that. The things that come out of our mouth. And so we have a set of values that's antithetical to marriage and antithetical to this mentality of victimhood. And so it's really, if you're going to abandon marriage and you're going to adopt a victim mentality, what you've really abandoned is God and a biblical worldview. You cannot see yourself as a victim in any capacity. Well, I'm a victim, blah, blah, blah. In this scenario, can't do it. Not if you're claiming Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Cannot do it. You're not a victim. And I know some tough things have happened to you. Tough things have happened to everyone. But so if you're a victim, which you cannot be, you're a champion, it's already been, Jesus wins. We know the ending. So how can you be a victim? How can you be a loser? Can't. And then you abandon the family unit, marriage, man and woman and children, man following God, woman following man who's following God, man and woman discipling and developing children in the fear and admonition of God. That's the cycle. And if you abandon that, you're going to turn yourself into a victim. And that's what we've done. And that's our culture. And that's why Serena Williams can go Crip walk. Because again, if you see yourself as a victim, you're going to turn yourself into one. You're going to celebrate the things that victimize you. Gang culture. Serena Williams has lost a sister to gang culture, to the Crips. And she's celebrating it. It's a self-fulfilling. If they get, this is why, and trust me, I'm struggling with my weight and all that other stuff. And I crack jokes and all that other stuff. But, I wake up every day thinking, me and Idris Elba have a lot in common because I'm not going to surrender to, hey, you're Fat Albert. I'm going to wake up every day, hey, I'm just Idris Elba. I'm just one more exercise, one more day of good eating until I'm Idris Elba. That's me. That's how you have to think. I'm not going to surrender to something that kills me. And so what Serena Williams and what that halftime show was about, waving a big white flag. We surrender. We're gang culture. We're idiots. We're too loud. We're too ghetto. What was the other one he said? I can't remember. Too loud, too ghetto. What did Samuel L. Jackson say? We're all those things. And we're not going to apologize for it. It's who we are. And the only people that don't like it are white evangelical Christians, and F them, because we're victims. We've surrendered. That's what that was. But I'm not quite done because I want to go over some of this other stuff as it relates to what was said on The View. But before I do that, I want to talk to you about how you can protect yourself while you're online, how you can protect your children while they're online, because it's not just about you. You know, these VPNs, these very private networks, ExpressVPN in particular, they can protect you and your entire household. Young people in your house that like to get into mischief. I know I did when I was a kid. If I were a kid in this era, I would need something like ExpressVPN to protect me, my data, the whole 9 yards, because I like to get off into mischief. And I could do things as a young person that could destroy the rest of my life. Same thing as an adult. At 57, I'm still just as capable and just as stupid. But, you know, I just got a lot of years on me and I don't make as many mistakes as I used to make. The problem with these huge tech companies is they don't just want your money. They want to know everything about you. Shadowy data brokers make a living compiling detailed profiles of your online activity and selling them to marketers and other corporate interests that want to control you with targeted ads. You know, like, again, you've seen me complain about this Temu stuff and all the perversion that gets sent to me. That's why I need ExpressVPN, because I don't want those targeted ads trying to bait me into my perversions. They're not selling product, they're selling you, but you don't have to let them. There is a way to keep your browsing history truly private, and I try to use it every single day. It's an app called ExpressVPN. One of the easiest ways for data brokers to track you is through your device's unique IP address, which also reveals information about your location. With ExpressVPN, however, your IP address is hidden. That makes it much more difficult for data brokers to monitor, track, and monetize your private online activity. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network traffic to keep your data safe from hackers when you're on public Wi-Fi. It works on all of your devices, phone, laptop, tablet, you name it. Just tap one button to turn it on and you're protected. It's that easy. Here's where you need to go. Let me tell you, give me the website. Here's where you need to go. Protect your online privacy today by visiting expressvpn.com/fearless. You guys know how to spell Express, but I'm going to spell it out for you. EXPRESS V, P as in Paul, N.com/fearless. And you can get your extra 4 months free by going to expressvpn.com/fearless. All right, don't go anywhere. I'm going to unpack a bit more about The View and Serena Williams and what they're actually doing with the song Not Like Us next. If Ryan Clark weren't involved, Lamar Jackson would probably be the most popular athlete in all of sports, or at least second behind Caitlin Clark. but it can't happen because he's been turned into polarizing Lamar Jackson. And that's by design. There are no accidents here. Listen to, I found this clip, I just stumbled across this clip of Ryan Clark talking about Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. Play slot number 8.
Better quarterback is Jalen Hurts. If you're asking me who the more successful quarterback is Jalen Hurts. If you're asking me who the quarterback is that I can rely on more, that I believe that is more consistent, who I count on more in the biggest moments against the biggest teams in the best games, it's Jalen Hurts. Those things are not a conversation. Those things are a part of resume. Those things are a part of history. Those things are a part of film.
That's just an ignorant statement by Ryan Clark. He's being intentionally racially divisive. And I know Ryan Clark has said to others, hey, why do I praise Joe Burrow? Everybody throws a curveball once in a while, and Joe Burrow played at LSU, where Ryan Clark played at LSU, and he supports everything LSU. But you throw the change, hey, I support it. And today, or I think I saw him on Inside the NFL yesterday, making some positive comments about Josh Allen.
His words are obligation, no regrets in our decisions. We all wanna go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
All right, welcome back. I want to continue my discussion here, and eventually I'm going to bring Shemeka into this discussion. So just stick with me. But there was some parts of this I wanted to unpack outside of my conversation with Delano. And so I want to play for you. I want to replay SOT number 1. Sonny Houston hosting and Whoopi Goldberg and the View people talking about Serena Williams. I want to replay, and I'm going to jump off some other things they said here and make some additional points. So let's replay SOT number 1.
Serena Crip walking was really about what happened to her when she did the same Crip walk after she beat Sharapova in the 2012 Olympics. She did that Crip walk then, and it was on Wimbledon grass, and everyone said that it was disrespectful. So for Serena, because she was dancing. So she was doing a Crip walk.
Disrespectful to who? The grass?
It was disrespectful. They actually, she took a lot of criticism for doing that.
Really?
And so when you look at Serena's comments, what she was doing was being her authentic self, an homage to her roots from Compton, and it was Black joy and Black excellence. You've got the greatest female athlete of all time coming
and all
out
you can think
and
of
enjoying
is
herself.
Let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. Because I want to, and this isn't me trying to gloss myself, trying to make myself more important than what I am. This is just me keeping the record clear and the record straight so that you know what's going on. And I said some of this yesterday about Serena's husband and why he attacked me and why he started out talking about 2012. And that's why Sonny Hostin is talking about it again. I'm about to say something that will be misunderstood. These people are petrified of me. Sonny Hostin, everybody on The View, because Sonny Hostin is talking about me, but they're petrified of me. And they're not really petrified of me. They're scared of my biblical worldview. And so if Sonny Hostin had said what was the reality that she knows and the people that prepped her and the people that gassed up Serena Williams and her husband to try to come at me, and credit to Serena's husband. But the rest of these people in the media, they know what's going on and they know what this is about. This whole deal about, oh, in 2012, she was attacked. Oh, and that's what this was about. And what Sonny Hostin is afraid to say is like, in 2012, Jason Whitlock, while working at Fox Sports, was the lone person to criticize Serena Williams for Crip walking at Wimbledon during the 2012 Olympics. Because that's what happened, that's what's factual. These people have always hated me because of, and again, in 2012, I didn't even fully realize that my instincts and that a lot of my behaviors were triggered in a biblical way. And so I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just going with my factory settings and what my grandmother and 25th Street Baptist Church had put in me. And so I called Serena Williams out for this in 2012 at the Olympics. I was at the Olympics in London. Went to several Olympics, but I was at that one in London. And I believe I was in, I can't remember where, if I was at the stadium or if I just, I can't remember what venue I was in when that actually happened. Maybe I was there, maybe I was at another event, but heard about it, saw the whole deal, and I wrote a piece about, and this morning I was trying to find the piece, but I couldn't, but I could find people in 2012 writing about what I said at that time. And there were articles from the Daily Mail. There were articles from several people that are still online where they're, talking about, Jason Whitlock, that's from Adweek. Jason Whitlock believes Serena's Crip Walk celebration was premeditated. And then the Daily Mail wrote something about it then in 2012 as well. I was, and I would love, and I'll look deeper and we'll find the article, but punch it into Google, Jason Whitlock, Serena Williams, Crip Walk 2012. I was calling this out in real time. They're like, this is crazy. What is this woman doing? She's not ghetto. What is she doing? This is beneath her. This isn't something, why would you do this ghetto crap at Wimbledon? Serena's been upset about it ever since. But these people, I give her husband credit. He went off the ranch and called me out by name, and I'm sure they regret it. But Sonny Holston knows exactly who criticized, and I guess the impact of my criticism is so powerful that it feels like the whole world is coming down on you. And so when someone, and this is the power of Jesus Christ in a biblical worldview, when you call someone out in a biblical way or in a way that's consistent with a biblical mindset, it feels like the whole weight of the world has come down on you. And so Serena Williams and her fraudulence, and that's why we have this Not Like Us with Serena with teardrop tattoos and face and a blue bandana, like she's some sort of gangbanger. And Delano just walked you through a very important point. Got to Compton at 3 years old, left Compton at, I believe he said 9 years old, to live down in Florida because of her tennis talent. And yes, so she was there for 6 years. And according to the King Richard movie, which I love, bad things happened to Richard Williams, and they saw some things as kids, and they exited Compton. Richard Williams wanted to get his kids out of that environment so they could completely flourish. Why are you paying homage to an area you chose to evacuate as soon as you could? Why are you paying homage to a gang culture that took the life of your sister? And this, again, it's not just the Olympics. This was just at the ESPYs, I believe, this past summer. Let's play shot number 2. This is Serena Williams paying homage to the Crips and to Crip walking or just the whole, play the clip.
I know a lot of kids look up to us athletes. And I want to say to these kids right now, get up, get off of TikTok, work hard, find out how capable you are, be great, be so great they don't want to believe in you, and then be even greater. And after all that, still don't pick a fight with Kendrick.
They not like us, they not like us, they not like us.
She loves this Crip walking deal. She loves pretending like she's ghetto. Married to her white husband who's super rich. She's super rich. Everybody on The View and Serena Williams, if they were walking down the street in the middle of the day, not at night, in the middle of the day, and some Crip came down the street on their sidewalk, Crip walking, trust me, they would exit and cross the street to get as far away from that Crip as they could. This whole Not Like Us deal is a psyop. Kendrick Lamar is a plant. When they gave the dude the Pulitzer Prize for his first album or very early in his career, I was like, oh, they got plans for Kendrick Lamar, because this makes no sense. A Pulitzer Prize, all the great musicians throughout history, and this guy with some cursing and the N-word and all that, he wins a Pulitzer Prize? This little midget dude? Are you kidding me? All the great music that's been written that has major themes and major... I'd rather Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, has more significance than anything Kendrick Lamar has ever written, rapped, spoken, any of that. They give him a Pulitzer Prize. It's all part of a building process. And that building process has to be put on steroids. And so they take a guy who doesn't have this great big catalog of music that is crossed over and can reach all of America, but they want to promote this Not Like Us song. This is not an accident. This has, what I will give Serena credit, and Serena has put out an explanation over Instagram or somewhere. She's written an explanation. Let's call that up. This is full screen #1, Serena Williams' explanation on what she was. She's trying to, this has nothing to do with Drake. When Kendrick Lamar and the team called and was like, we've been trying to do something forever. What about this? We loved your Crip walk at the Olympics after you won the gold medal. I'm like, Super Bowl? Are you serious? When in the world would I ever be able to dance at a Super Bowl? Never. Let's do it. I knew my winning dance after the Olympics would pay off one day. End of story. This woman's so thin-skinned and the people around her are so thin-skinned that one person in 2012 that had the courage or the balls to criticize her for that idiot Crip walk. I knew it would pay off one day. When they called, they were so impressed with my 2012 Crip walk. This is a side, and so she's putting this out. It wasn't about Drake, and those of you, Stephen A. Smith and others that are saying that, I was doing this to troll Drake, it wasn't about that. This is what they're trying to, and to some degree, they're right. This whole thing that y'all think is about a beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, that's a psyop. That's a manufactured beef. That's WWE. The real agenda here is to use music, and many of you all refuse to understand the importance of music. The argument is that, like, Satan was the choir director in heaven before he became a fallen angel. And music, in my view, is one of the most, or the most important tool of Satan. Music seeps into your soul and writes on your heart. They use music, the right kind of music, to heal people. That sick people should listen to music, positive music, things that that there's a vibrational thing to music that works on a level that they have not explained to human beings. Most don't understand it. But trust me, they can do countless documentaries on music and how they use it to manipulate, to brainwash, to heal, to write on people's soul, to make people think that their natural instincts are violent or non-confrontational, or you can make them do anything. And for Black people, music has been used to make us think our culture is violent and gangs. They're using Not Like Us to further convince. Just think of what all the messaging was for 300-400 years in America. Hey, Black people are not different from everyone else if given the opportunity to learn to read, if given an opportunity to enter society. We're just like everybody else. That was the messaging that made America great and led to our freedom here in America. And so what have the Marxists, the secular people hostile to Jesus Christ, what has been their messaging over the last 20 to 30 years? We're all different. You're not like us. We're not the same. Your sexuality, you're gay, you're straight, you're bisexual, you're trans. How many different identities have they given out rather than the identity we used to be pervasive here in America? That we all take on this Christian identity. And this Christian identity created Western civilization and the freedom that we all enjoy here in America. Let's all come together, or most of us, and have a country that's in agreement that Christian ideals are what bring us together, and Christian ideas are what create freedom and prosperity and a culture that is safe for young people. That was the mentality. And now they've gone the completely different satanic direction of they not like us, they not like us. And you have young black people chanting this everywhere. You got young white people chanting it everywhere. But it's most dangerous for young black people because this is the identity that we're taking on. We're different. We're not like them. We're not like the rest of the world. We reject the Christian identity. That's the white man's deal. Christianity, it's a lie. And so Not Like Us was having success, but not the kind of success it needed to have and it needs to have for them to be successful. The other side, when I say them, I'm talking about the secular crowd, the crowd that hates Jesus Christ, the leftist crowd. They need this song more pervasive. How do you make it more pervasive? You platform it at the Super Bowl. You make it the focus of the Super Bowl halftime. You get a black queen, Serena Williams, come out and do the Crip dance. They not like us. You black people, you're gangs are your culture. You're violent and criminal. You love to smoke weed. You love to kill each other. That's who you are. You're not like us. And so eventually, just as I said, if, hey, you take on a victim identity, people are going to look at you as a victim. You're going to look at yourself as a victim. It's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Not like us. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Hey, I reject everything about America and Western civilization. I reject everything about Christianity and a biblical worldview. I'm not like you. And eventually, people are going to say, you know what, I'm going to take you at your word. I believe you. You told me you're not like me and you're not like us, and that you have a completely different set of values. And you think, despite earning millions of dollars, despite living in a gated community and being a global icon and one of the most successful people in America, you think, hey, if I get on the biggest stage in America, I got to pay homage to the Crips in Compton. And the whole life that I tried to escape, I have to convince everybody, no, I'm with them. I'm with the Crips. And yes, they killed my sister, but damn it, I'm so committed to living up to this identity that's been given to me by the Marxists, by the leftists, by the people hostile to Jesus Christ, that I'll come out here and dance. I'm a mother of two. I'm 40-some-odd years old. Let me come out here and Crip walk. And then I'll have Sonny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg and all the women on The View back me up. So, yeah, she ain't like us. And coming out there and doing a Crip walk is black excellence. It's a salute to black culture. Who is paying for this? Why are we going for this? Why aren't ministers crushing people for allowing this? Sonny Hostin, Whoopi Goldberg, Serena Williams need to be some of the most reviled people in black America. When I saw Deion Sanders, and again, this is why I can't stand Deion Sanders. I'm just sorry. And I try to like him, and there's some certain things he does. He just gave Marshall Faulk a job coaching at Colorado, and I like it. He gave Warren Sapp a job at Colorado. I love it. But Deion Sanders is an idiot. And he's in on this psyop, whether he knows it or not. Maybe he's just a useful idiot. But this man came out and put out a statement on his social media celebrating Kendrick Lamar. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have to put one brother down to appreciate another. Let's just marinate on that. This is how he starts out praising Kendrick Lamar. Now, Kendrick Lamar has doing a song on the Super Bowl stage, putting down Drake. And Deion is saying, oh, we don't have to put down one brother to appreciate another. Does he not see the contradiction? And then Deion goes, God bless you, Kendrick Lamar. You did that. What are we talking? What did he do? He dissed Drake. Lamar, you did that. Now we can all walk in love, respect, and forgiveness. Coach Prime, you represented us well. God bless you, my brother. That's the way to do you. We are proud of you, man. You represented us well. And so you have Deion Sanders, high-profile football coach. Kendrick Lamar, you represented us well. You went on that stage and called Drake a pedophile and aired him out and acted ghetto and represented gang culture. You represented us well. This is Deion Sanders. Sonny Holston comes, because this ain't just black women. Sonny Holston comes on. Oh, God, this was a celebration of the best parts of blackness or whatever. This is mind-blowing to me. All of these guys, Deion Sanders, you couldn't pay Deion Sanders to live in a Crip neighborhood. Offer him $1 billion. He ain't moving nowhere near the Crips. But everybody out there Crip walking and promoting gang culture is representing us well. This is an insanity that is frightening. This is a cult. This is no different than Jim Jones taking a bunch of black women and a bunch of black beta males out into the woods, into the forest or into the jungle of Guyana and convincing them to drink Kool-Aid and kill themselves. And everybody's dead saying, oh boy, wasn't that great? We drank Kool-Aid and killed ourselves. All because of this liberal, leftist, hostile to God, Marxist, left-wing guy convinced us, hey, this is on our best interest. Let's drink this Kool-Aid and die. Same thing we're doing here. Serena Williams, Kendrick Lamar, Deion Sanders, Sonny Holston, Whoopi Goldberg. Kill yourselves, Negroes. See yourself as a victim. See yourself as a gang member. Kill yourselves. And do it early. Hit an abortion clinic as early as you can. Kill your children. Y'all can't see this? This is the most obvious thing in the world. Let me pause here. And while I talk about roll call, you guys call up Shemeka, so I don't have to stop. I'm going to talk about roll call. We'll get Shemeka's take. I'm not. If you're wondering why I do the roll call event every year, everything that I'm talking about right now is why. We need to be awakened to the reality of what's going on in this world. We're asleep. They are tearing this country down right before our eyes. As I told y'all on Monday, that Super Bowl halftime, there were so many subliminal and not subliminal and messaging in this. And again, it's playing out throughout the rest of the week. Sonny Holston and Whoopi Goldberg, these guys, and Deion Sanders, they're just filling out the rest of their diabolical plan that was executed Sunday during the Super Bowl. And so that's why I'm calling men to Nashville every year. This year, it's May 2nd and 3rd. This year, I'm telling you, bring your wife, bring your girlfriend, bring your significant other. We will entertain her Friday night with an amazing show with me and Tucker Carlson and the country singer Jamie Johnson and the comedian Steve Byrne. And then Saturday afternoon, she's gonna have to shop, do whatever, while I inspire you with Pastor Corey Brooks, Pastor Doug Wilson, E.W. Jackson, Alan Jackson, Anthony Walker, myself. We're going to entertain you with Mervyn Mayo and Tamara Conrad on Saturday. And then Saturday night, bring your wife, your significant other, your girlfriend to an amazing dinner and party that we're going to have. I'm going to entertain your wife, your girlfriend, whatever, and I'm going to inspire you. Not I, we are going to. If you have, this is an awesome opportunity. Treat your wife well, take her on a nice little trip, and then your wife. Drag your man to this event, because when he leaves, he'll be a better man and a better husband to you. So if he doesn't want to come, you tell him, hey, baby, we have to go. You have to be there. We have to be there. We have to experience this together. Because America's asleep, and we have to build and inform the men in this world that need to take on a leadership role who our allies are. And our allies are not color-coded. They're value-coded. Who shares our values? Who is trying to submit and obey Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior? That's our allies. Our allies aren't, oh God, this person likes to have sex the way that I do, or this person's skin color is this color. It's Jesus Christ lets us know who our allies are. And as men, we have to come together despite our little differences. Some of you may be Protestant, some of you may be Catholic, some of you may be Reformed. But we got to come together as men and make sure we're getting the right information out and inspiring each other to stand on these biblical values, because trust me, the enemy is at work in all different kinds of ways. This matrix they've built on the internet, this matrix they've built on television, it's all there to destroy us, this country, and make your children less safe. Visit fearlessrollcall.com, fearlessrollcall.com. Get here May 2nd, May 3rd. Shemeka, Michelle, didn't want to have this conversation particularly about Serena Williams, without inviting a woman's voice and perspective, particularly as it relates to Sunny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg and all of that. So your thoughts on what we've been discussing today?
Jason, when it comes to culture, culture is a concept that refers to the shared beliefs, values, and behaviors of a group of people. So when we look at so-called Black culture, what do we believe now? You all hit on an oppression or victimhood mentality. That's what we seem to believe. Where are our values? They've certainly declined. And look at our behavior overall. And people say, oh, this is just what's magnified online. Lies. Anybody over 40 can see that we have declined in our communities. I talk to people in their 30s that see the decline, but definitely if you're over 40, you see the decline in our communities. We just had last week here a 14-year-old to be arrested for killing a 15-year-old. We didn't hear about that when I was 14 and 15. Now it's all the time. This is what we hear. We see all of these young girls just having baby after the baby out of wedlock. And instead of us saying something and acknowledging this, we look around and say, oh, it's not happening. That's just smoke. There's no fire, because we like to lie. We're so worried about the white man knowing our business that we won't address things in our community that we know are harming us, that we know are killing us, because we are just so comfortable with lying. And it makes me so angry, Jason, because I see people saying foolishness all the time. That's why I keep to myself. I was looking on X today, and I saw a post that said, "Dear Black people, beware of any white person who even mildly suggests that you read Thomas Sowell. That MFer is not your friend." And then I looked on that person's timeline, and I could see they worship the matriarchy. They retweet people that quote Jay-Z. They retweet Pete Buttigieg. I mean, and this is a Black man, over 50, but this is what we're pushing out to our community. And then we'll get offended when white people say, what's going on in the Black culture? What's going on? What is going on? We love degeneracy. That's what we promote. It's one of my pet peeves, how we wrap our arms around degeneracy and call it Black. I said this when we used to say Bill Clinton was the first Black president, simply because he smoked weed, blew a saxophone, and got his dick sucked. That really makes me mad that those are the people that we wrap our arms around. But we'll talk about Thomas Sowell in a degrading way. We'll talk about Clarence Thomas in a degrading way. But look at what we promote and what we push every day. So when we talk about the culture, what is the culture? I say that Baby Boy wasn't just a movie. It's become normality for us. Let's look at the movie. This was a woman, a single mom, raising a son who felt entitled for no other reason but, this is my grandmama's house. He ran from responsibility. He couldn't control his emotions. He didn't have a job. We see baby boys all around every day. So this isn't just what's pushed online. We like to lie and say that's what's magnified, but look around. This is what we're seeing in our communities, and instead of us saying something, we pretend like it's not happening because we're too punk to actually address it and stand 10 toes down to make changes.
I can't top that, so I'm not going to try. Great job, Shemeka. Thank you for chiming in. I'm going to keep it moving because I want to get to Steve Kim, talk a little sports. I know the audience wants to hear from Steve Kim. They love Steve Kim. I want to remind you all, on Friday, we'll be playing Listen or Lose again. It's your opportunity to win $100 in free Bitcoin from the Fold app. Go to foldapp.com/Whitlock, foldapp.com/Whitlock. That's foldapp.com/Whitlock. Sign up today. In order to get paid, you got to have the Fold app on your phone. Email butter at lolonfearless@gmail.com if you want to play. If you listen to the show and can answer some trivia questions about what transpired on the show this week, you will compete against two other contestants. Whoever answers the most questions right wins $100 in Bitcoin from the Fold app. You might as well get into the Bitcoin game, the cryptocurrency game. I'm late to it. I'm using the Fold app to get involved. You can too. We've done it for you in a fun way with Listen or Lose. All right, don't go anywhere. Steve Kim, the Korean Cosell, and a bit of sports talk. Next. Welcome to Extra Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Oh my God, Lyndon Johnson, his thoughts are so disgusting. I can't believe you would engage with him. The celebration for being a slut have never been greater. Why do you choose Taylor Swift, and why do you pick up a role as, let me help my woman undress on stage in front of an audience?
When I look at people like Sexy Red or Cardi B that we prop up, now I see that the white community as well is just as fried.
It does look to me like he made some eye contact with her and then just decided, nah, let me move on. The BET Awards seems like a psyop at this point. It's just Democratic brainwashing. Get in there and fight for all the things. Steve, that's it for you. I'm done.
Yeah, 모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 reason that I'm back is to feed you raps I see that you are 배불러 so fly.
All right, welcome back. Time for the Korean Cosell. Steve, I'll start you with a Serena Williams question. Did you hear her explanation for why she Crip walked at the Super Bowl? It wasn't about Drake. It was about, her 2012 Crip walk at Wimbledon, and they reached out, and Kendrick Lamar, when he was 12 years old, he remembers that Crip walk so vividly that he just wanted her to do it there. Serena Williams, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. Kendrick doesn't seem like the guy that was watching HBO during the summers for their Wimbledon coverage. I'll be honest with you. This reminds me of this whole scenario. I remember when Billy Joel and Phil Collins had this heated beef, as they call it. And they were threatening each other, and they brought in Martina Navratilova one year. Phil Collins did to do the Cabbage Patch, and it just blew up the spot, and it ended it right there. It was done, over with.
Oh, the Cabbage Patch. Maybe they should. Yeah. Are you old enough to remember the bump, Steve? Do you know what the bump is?
The Troop, the RoboCop, the Running Man, the guest dance, the Coca-Cola. I can cut the rug back in the day. Trust me.
Oh, all right. We'll keep it moving and move on to the story that the New York Jets have basically given Aaron Rodgers an ultimatum that he has to give up the McAfee show and be totally committed to the offseason workouts if he wants to remain a New York Jet. What do you make of this? I think it's appropriate. I think Aaron Glenn, first-time head coach, is like, hey, Aaron, we'd love to have you if you're 100% all in. If you're only 98%, we want to move on. I think the Jets are wise here. Do you think they're wise? And what do you think Aaron Rodgers will do?
I love the tone being set by Coach Glenn. This is my first head coaching job. This is my first season. Everyone's got to be all in. I can't have anyone at just 98.5. But, Jason, it proves this, that in the National Football League, or most things in life, you will put up with a lot of things as long as you are productive. Now, when Aaron Rodgers was throwing for over 4,800 yards every year, producing 40 touchdowns and leading you to 10 to 13 victories, you would let him do anything. But once that dips and you become now a distraction instead of a producer, things change. And I go back to Colin Kaepernick. If Colin Kaepernick was still playing at the level that he did for that Super Bowl year, people would have taken him more seriously as an activist. But with the way his play had declined, he became a nuisance. And unfortunately, for Aaron Rodgers at this moment in time, whether it's fair or not, to the New York Jets, he is looked upon as a bit of a nuisance.
Yeah. What's your prediction here on what Aaron Rodgers will do? They say the Steelers are interested. They say the Raiders are interested. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I take the Jets up on their offer because I think the Jets have a good defense. I think they got some good wide receivers. I would bow to the Jets' demands. What do you think Aaron Rodgers will do?
Well, the question I have for him, and I've never spoken to him, is how important is that Pat McAfee show? It's obvious to me the last couple of years that Aaron Rodgers is now looking at the next chapters of his life as a personality, as a pundit, And he looks at that as an avenue to kind of get to a wider audience, right? He's not just an athlete. Remember when that was a thing? Not just an athlete. So here's the issue. If you take a look at those two squads, yeah, he could probably be the starter in each organization. But at this stage of my career, given the physical toll this game takes, I want to be on a winning team. I don't want to go through another 4-13, Jason. I just don't. And so based on that, which team gives me a better chance of at least making the postseason in what probably is going to be my last year as a player? That would be Pittsburgh.
I think he should stay with the Jets. I don't think he wants the stench of like, hey, it was a total failure with the Jets. I would give it one last try with the Jets. I hope that's what he would do. Here's the other option, Steve. It's right up your alley because I think you've become a pretty strong Tony Romo critic. I wonder what CBS would pay Aaron Rodgers. I thought you didn't like Tony Romo as a broadcaster.
No, I like Tony. Look, Tony maybe gotten repetitive. I know a lot of people have kind of flipped on him. When I listen to Tony Romo and Jim Nantz, I still, for the most part, enjoy the broadcast, for the record.
Oh, my bad. I misread you. I thought I heard something different. But what do you think of Aaron Rodgers potentially broadcasting games? I think he'd actually be pretty good because I think he'd be pretty fearless.
Maybe. Again, just because you're great at something as a player does not mean you're a broadcaster. You can go both ways. You can be a natural like Tony Romo or very unnatural like Tom Brady or Joe Montana. Before we start anointing these guys, let's make sure these guys could actually do the job. Remember when Lawrence Taylor was hired by TNT for the NFL Nitro series? Didn't work out well. So again, plus I get the sense that Aaron Rodgers thinks he's above football. Like he's like a pundit for politics, world issues. I don't know. Maybe at this point, just being a football broadcaster, Jason, I get the sense might actually bore him.
Good point. I stand corrected. Let me move on. John Rocker, the former baseball star who's been a guest on Fearless, versus Pat Mahomes Sr. in NOLA. Let's play the video. Let's watch. These guys nearly came to blows, and then I'll ask you whether you're buying this. Let's play the clip. I don't know what to make of that. Rocker went on Twitter and said something about Pat Mahomes couldn't take a joke, and now, Mahomes responded over Twitter or over X. They've kind of gone back and forth, but I haven't heard a great explanation for what's at the heart of this, what caused this conflict in New Orleans. It looked like they were in the French Quarter, Bourbon Street area, whatever. But then there's also a video that to me kind of looks AI-ish, like that maybe Dave Portnoy is setting up a fight for his rough and rowdy. You buying this conflict between John Rocker and Pat Mahomes?
As if certain parts of America already didn't like John Rocker to begin with. Looking at the size of those guys, there's an old saying in boxing, Jason, there's weight classes for a reason. And in that particular matchup, Mahomes would be the starter. Rocker would definitely be the closer. But just kind of getting my Don King on, just kind of thinking about this. We have the makings of a pretty good co-main event here. We have Chad Johnson against Harrison. And now we have Rocker against Mahomes. You put together like 3 more physical mismatches, we have a pretty good pay-per-view card, don't we?
Well, if we went by weight classes, shouldn't Chad Ochocinco fight Pat Mahomes Sr. and Rocker fight
Right.
James Harrison?
Right, but that's not the way it matched up, though. We have built-in rivalries here. I mean, last I checked, I don't think Rocker or Harrison even know who the hell each other is. So there's no storyline there. But it is interesting. Just when I thought that Mahomes Sr. was going to have a nice, quiet, uneventful Super Bowl week, that man delivers. He is FedEx. He truly delivers every single Super Bowl weekend.
I've reached out to John Rocker, haven't heard back from him as far as I can tell. Yeah, I got texts from John Hadley, not John Rocker. But yeah, I want to hear from Rocker before so I can understand what this is about. I can't understand why in the middle of the night in New Orleans, either right before or after the Super Bowl, these two guys would have beef with each other. But who knows what the history is. Let's keep it moving. Steve, there's an top 10 list put out by Fox Sports of the all-time QB list. This is clearly put out right after the Super Bowl to reassess Patrick Mahomes. This list got off to a good start and then faded very quickly in my mind. Tom Brady, number 1, Joe Montana, number 2, Peyton Manning, number 3, Mahomes, 4, Elway, 5, Aaron Rodgers, 6, Terry Bradshaw, 7, Brett Favre, 8, Drew Brees, 9, Dan Marino coming in at number 10. What's your biggest complaint, or maybe you love this list, but what's your biggest complaint about this list, and then I'll tell you mine.
All right, it's not really a complaint, but you know how I feel as a child of the 80s. And for the record, I was a diehard LA Rams fan growing up, okay? Till they moved. Now they're dead to me. But Joe Montana, I saw it up close, the greatness of that man. To me, he will always be QB1. But again, I get it. The other guy went to a lot of Super Bowls, won 7 of them. So I'm not going to have a major complaint about that. But, so you're telling me, based on where they stand right now, that Patrick Mahomes now is Mount Rushmore. You can't get him off because he's already number 4. Really? It just seems a little bit premature in my view. It really does. And let's be honest, in terms of his overall production, it seems to be waning. Now, again, that could have an uptick again if you get a couple more receivers. We could be rewriting a completely different story. The one quarterback, now, I don't know if they're just doing Super Bowl era, but Jason, if you say that winning matters and having rings on the fingers and championships, well, I mean, Otto Graham won a lot of championships. I don't know if people care about that or not. And a quarterback that came in, that played in the Super Bowl era, has a couple of championships, and I think would be unbelievable in today's game, and was a true consummate football player and a real superstar, I believe is vastly underrated in every one of these lists I see. Roger Staubach. He should be somewhere.
Oh, glad. I'm glad
lists.
you said that. Yeah, Roger Staubach should be. Here's the 3 names not on this list that I think. Put the list back up too, or put the visual back up so I can look. But here's the names that I think are missing: Johnny Unitas,
yes,
Roger Staubach, and Steve Young. Because when Johnny Unitas retired, he was the GOAT, and now it's like, oh, he's been surpassed by any and everybody. Johnny Unitas was the GOAT quarterback of that era, ahead of Bart Starr, and he's older than Bart Starr, but anybody in that, Lynn Dawson, any of that, I just don't understand how Johnny Unitas gets left off here. And so I think Peyton Manning, I wouldn't have that high. I would have John Elway in the top 4 for sure. Again, for me, he's the greatest quarterback of all time. I've made the argument. I can tell you why, but I'm not going to waste time. There's Dan Marino at number 10 invalidates this entire list, in my opinion. There's just at number 10. Are you kidding me? This guy's got to be in the top 5 or 6, or you really don't have a list. And so I don't care how many Super Bowls people got. There was never a better thrower of the football than Dan Marino. I'm going to give Fox Sports an excuse. Terry Bradshaw's worked with them for a long time. I get why they put him in their top 10. They didn't want to put out a top 10 without listing a guy that won 4 Super Bowls and won an MVP award. But Terry Bradshaw made 3 Pro Bowls. You go to any general manager and they're sitting there saying, hey, who are the quarterbacks you would start your franchise with? Terry Bradshaw is not going to be one of the first 10 names listed. And some of these other. He's not. Come on. If there's an all-time QB draft, stop it, Steve.
Terry Bradshaw is the #1 pick, and in terms of arm talent, he's among a very elite group. Now, to be fair and accurate, the first 2 Super Bowls were really about the steel curtain and the running game headed by Franco Harris and Rocky Bleier. There's no argument. As for Johnny Unitas, he is the Thomas Edison of the modern pass and quarterback game. The man was basically his own offensive coordinator, came up with his own plays, and a lot of things that are done today basically started because of Johnny Unitas. Okay, so he has to be given special consideration. As for Dan Marino, this is where you start to, again, are we doing individual awards or team success? Because I think people are very hypocritical about it. In terms of pure arm talent and the ability to operate within the pocket and to slice defenses and be a threat at any quadrant of the field, it'd be that guy. People that have played and coached against him will say he had as much arm talent as anyone that ever gripped a football.
And so if I'm in my draft war room and I got my big board up and we're like, oh, you got to take a quarterback. Here's the guys that I would consider taking at #1 overall. And this is, I'm just telling you, who I would consider taking at #1 overall. I'm going to leave a couple of names off this list that people are going to be like, you got to be kidding me. How can you leave that name off the list? But the only guys I'm considering at #1 overall are Dan Marino, Steve Young, and John Elway. That's the only 3 guys I'm considering.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You're not putting in Cool Joe Montana. Your list is invalidated. Now your list needs to be taken into the
I'm just
rubbish.
saying who I would consider. Hey, I may rank Joe Montana as the 2nd or 3rd best quarterback of all time. But if I'm sitting there on draft day, not knowing what any, or if, not knowing, remove that. But if I'm sitting there on draft day and I can have any quarterback I want and then construct the rest of my team around them, it's Marino, it's Elway, it's Steve Young.
Okay, I have a question. Are the last 2 years clouding the perception and the reputation of Aaron Rodgers? The man has a Super Bowl. The man's won a lot of games. I think he's won 4 MVPs.
4 MVP.
Yeah, are we actually underrating Aaron Rodgers now because of the last 2 years, because of the Jets era?
Perhaps, because I would, but the reason why I'm not considering Aaron Rodgers, and this is no slight at Aaron Rodgers, is because if I want Aaron Rodgers, I got him in Steve Young, and Steve Young's going to run better than Aaron Rodgers. I put those 2 guys in the same class. If I just want a pure passer, I'm considering between Marino and Peyton Manning. I'm going with Marino. If I want the do-everything quarterback, big, strong guy in the pocket who, again, would be dominant in any era of football, I'm going with John Elway, and I'm probably taking John Elway #1.
You know what? I can't disagree with it because, John Elway, in terms of draft prospects, to this day, people like Mel Kiper will tell you, and he was drafted #1 in 1983. He is still the highest graded draft prospect ever. I think they give him a 9.9. They don't give out 10s. He is that hope diamond. He is that rare jewel. And I don't know, kids, people our age understand what John Elway was. But if you're younger, they don't realize this guy probably could have been the 3rd baseman for the New York Yankees. He could throw the ball 80 yards on a dime. And at one time, Jason, he actually ran a 4.5. He could have ran the RPO, the read option. He could have done a lot of the bootleg stuff. And in today's game, where quarterbacks are protected and they cannot be hit, he would be dynamic. And people don't understand, first 9 years under Dan Reeves, it was not really what you'd call a modern-day pass offense. His best numbers actually came when Mike Shanahan came to Denver, I believe, in about 1993 or 94.
Here's what people don't understand about John Elway and just that era of football. And I was looking up the other day, I think Howard Twilley passed away.
Yeah.
Dolphins receiver, mid-60s to the mid-1970s. And I was looking at his stats, and then I think I looked at Paul Warfield, and it's like, when you look at these guys' yards per catch, it was 17, 18, 19, 20 yards down. This was yards per catch. They didn't have, and it was about, they quarterbacks used to attack downfield. And there wasn't all these bubble screens and easy completions. And so when you had John Elway with that big arm and all that talent or whatever, and people look at the passing percentage, and I go, do y'all realize the man never played with a great receiver till the second part of his career, a Pro Bowl receiver? And in his era of football, particularly in those early years, you were attacking downfield a lot more than guys are now. Don't get caught up in the pass. Don't even get caught up in the interceptions. Because it's like the year Terry Bradshaw won the MVP in 1978, he had like 25 TDs and 23 interceptions, and that was standard. You threw the ball downfield. There's chances you could really hit guys, and so receivers would come over the middle, get hit, ball would pop up in the air, someone would intercept. All that's been illegalized now, and so I just don't think people properly understand just how great John Elway was. But anyway, I got another all-time discussion I want to get you into before I let you go. And it's Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant last night, Steve, became the 8th player to score 30,000 points in the NBA. LeBron James, of course, is number 1. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 2. Karl Malone, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Dirk Nowitzki, Wilt Chamberlain, and then Kevin Durant. And that got me to thinking, like, holy cow, where do we put Kevin Durant in the all-time list? Is he top 10? Is he a threat for? Is he top 15? Is he top 20? And so this is the list of names that I came up with. The first part of that is not in order because Michael Jordan, we just came up with a list that doesn't include there's Michael Jordan. Anyway, it's not in order, but those are the list of the 20 names that I came up with. Or is that 20? Is my math correct? Yeah, that's 20. Is Kevin Durant, does he crack that top 20? And so, it's like, is he better than Dwayne Wade? Is he better than Jerry West? Is he better than the Big O, Dirk Nowitzki, Karl Malone, Moses Malone, Julius Erving, Nikola Jokic? So is Kevin Durant in the top 20 comfortably, or is he a question mark?
He is comfortably in the top 20, but not that close to the top 10. I mean, let's be fair to Kevin Durant. Let's not let the last 3-4 years post-Golden State cloud our perception of him, like we alluded to with Aaron Rodgers. He's really a 7-footer, okay? He can get his shot off against anybody in the history of the game, those long arms. For a 7-footer, his ball handling and his ability to create space and create his own shot is rare. He's not just a spot-up shooter. He's also a pretty good defender. He's blocked a fair share of shots. Here's the question, though. Did he ever win the NBA championship as clearly the best player? I mean, you could say, yeah, he was even at Golden State, but he had a lot of help in the manner in which he jumped teams from Oklahoma City to the dead of night, going to the Bay Area, and then shifting the whole balance of the NBA. I mean, people rip LeBron for it. Well, he did the same thing, maybe even worse. And then the fact that as soon as he left that safe cocoon of Golden State, It has just been one snafu after another. So when you put all of the totality together, he cannot make my top 10 because I don't know of anybody he would actually replace.
Well, start knocking some of these names off my list that you're like, no, he's definitely better than Dwayne Wade. I mean, tell me who gets knocked out. Let me just go one by one. Let's start with Dirk Nowitzki. Would you take
maybe
Kevin Durant over Dirk Nowitzki? Maybe.
Probably
Why?
I would. I think he's more naturally gifted, probably a better athlete, probably better on the defensive side of the floor in terms of protecting the rim a little bit. I would say yes on that one.
Dirk Nowitzki slayed LeBron James in the Miami Heat, not all by himself, but he was definitely the best player, took a Dallas Mavericks team and slayed LeBron James. Dirk Nowitzki won an MVP award. Kevin Durant has one MVP award. You're positive you take KD over Dirk Nowitzki. That's interesting.
Gun to head, though. Here's
Dwayne...
the thing. If I was in terms of like, if I wanted to start a franchise, I know one guy would be more stable. Well, Jason, Dirk Nowitzki was a career-long Maverick, was he not? Maybe that means something. Well, and now it makes it tough.
Have you just flip-flopped? Have you just flip-flopped?
I done flip-flop. I flip-flop like a politician.
Yeah, you flip-flop. All right, Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade.
Yes. Size matters. I mean,
Dwayne
again,
Wade.
7-footer that could
Three titles. Three titles.
He had a lot of help too.
One as the top. He won the MVP the year they won the first title.
Yeah, the 2006 one. That's another tough one. He's in that group in the second 10, Jason. That's my point.
That's not the question. I'm just asking who we're knocking out, and I'm just saying, would you take KD over Dirk?
Yes, I would.
All right. Well, that's one.
Yes, I would.
You've got him in the top. How about Nikola Jokic?
When it's all said and done, Jokic may have more career accolades, might have more titles.
He's got 3 MVPs.
He does have 3 MVPs, but again, he hasn't finished his career. But I would say that is trending towards a no on Durant over Jokic.
Julius Dr. J. Irving.
Ooh, this is a tough one because his best ball was actually in the ABA where there's very little footage.
Stop that, Steve. Stop that.
That's the truth. That is the truth, though. That is the truth. Talk to anyone that's actually.
He won an MVP in the NBA. He won an MVP in the NBA.
That's not the point. But I would say, I think Durant has better range offensively. I would take Durant. I hate to say it, but I would.
Yeah, I really hate you saying it because, Steve, let's think this through. You do know that Dr. J carried the league at one point, that he was Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, that Julius Irving had the responsibility of carrying basketball, and ABA and NBA. And Kevin Durant, I know he was an MVP, but he's never had the responsibility of being the guy, the face of all of basketball. People, do you remember the Converse shoes? They were like Air Jordans, man.
Well, outside of the fact no one wore them, yeah, I guess. No, they really were not like Air Jordans, okay?
Spent my whole childhood in Converse Dr. J's.
I mean, they had that one. They had that one good commercial where everyone had a rhyme for post moves that never fail. The weapons are the choice of Kevin. I mean, it was a catchy commercial, but let's not act like it was an iconic shoe here, Whitlock. Come on. That's a little revisionist history with that whole thing.
Us old people. Let me give you one more name. What was the next person I wanted to ask you about? One more and we'll be done here. I know you wouldn't take Moses Malone. I know you would. Oh, this is who it was. It was a different Malone. Yeah. Karl Malone or Kevin Durant?
I can't believe I'm saying this. I'd go with Durant. Karl was an incredible player, all-time great 4. But He wasn't a great free throw shooter in crunch time. Wasn't always really good in the last moments of a game. Again, Durant's ability to extend the defense and his shooting range is rare. I got to take Durant.
This guy didn't make my list, but I'm just going to ask you anyway. Charles Barkley or Kevin Durant?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Your whole list, if Barkley is not in your original list, that whole list is bad. Barkley is among the top dozen players who ever lived. I don't care if he didn't have any jewelry on his finger. The man was 6'4", and every year in the rebound leaders, he could play any position. And there was a time for about 3-4 years in the association, take away Michael Jeffrey Jordan, he was probably the best player in the league. He's one of the most rare physical athletic specimens, no matter how he was shaped, that's ever played the game. That list without Charles Barkley makes an argument for top 10. Bottom line, good grief.
So you just knocked, that's another person ahead of, KD's barely in your list. Steve,
No, he is. And by the way, a guy that's...
You're making the argument. Are you arguing Charles Barkley over Julius Erving? And I love Charles Barkley. You're arguing Charles Barkley over Julius Erving.
Okay, that's a pop quiz. Another guy that I definitely would not have Durant over. We haven't mentioned him, and I think is one of the most underrated all-time great players. Akeem Olajuwon.
Oh,
okay.
Well, of course. I didn't bring that up. I didn't bring Akeem up. He's not in Akeem's class.
Of course not. And the most underrated all-time great Laker, a guy that I think actually is a top 25 player, big game James Worthy, the pride of Gastonia, North Carolina. Their greatest third option ever. I just want to shout him out. Big game James. And Kevin McHale. Kevin McHale's another guy that should be on that list. That's an all-time top 25 player. Best post-4 I've ever seen.
Steve.
What?
You just argued James Worthy as if, and I love James Worthy, he's a part of the great Showtime Lakers. You just argued as if he's somehow ahead of Jerry West and Elgin Baylor. Cut it out, Steve. Cut it out. I'm going to question your LA heritage.
Wait a minute.
Big James Worthy?
Wait a minute.
Derek Harper, is he next? Robert Horry, you about to say?
You ought to
cut it out.
James Worthy.
Elgin Baylor and Jerry West, and you're trying to put James Worthy ahead of them?
Look, in the Laker hierarchy, those two are above big game, as are Magic, Kareem, Kobe, Shaq. But James Worthy's a top 10 Laker. And if you actually look at the last couple of championships that were won with Magic, James Worthy was probably the most unstoppable offensive force on that team. Here's an interesting stat. James Worthy had one triple-double in his career. It was the Game 7 masterpiece in the 1988 finals going against that Detroit Pistons gauntlet. That's one of the greatest games I have ever seen, to battle Mahorn, Lane Beer, Sally, Rodman, Buda Edwards, and the stuff he did. Wow. That right there cements his status as an all-time great Laker. And you're out there insulting this guy. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You ought to be ashamed. That's just hypocrisy.
Steve, I'm done. I'm done.
Yes,
I'm done with you. I'm done with this show.
I'm disgusted.
Yeah, I'm disgusted as well. Steve Kim's done. We're going to play tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I just want, I wanna be, I just want